शुक्रिया शाहिद हमारे संग जुड़ने के लिए। Ukraine is celebrating what it calls its biggest long-range attack in the war with Russia. Smuggled FPV drones have been used to launch a series of major strikes on 40 Russian warplanes at 4 military bases. 117 drones were used by Ukraine's SBU security service, and they claim to have struck 34% of Russia's strategic cruise missile carriers. Now, as talks between Russia and Ukraine commence in Istanbul, this attack is being seen as Ukraine's bid to impact negotiations for a better favorable deal. But the war is continuing even though the two sides have agreed to sit on one table. Joining us at this point, Glenn Grant, former advisor to Defence Minister of Ukraine. Madhav Nalapat, editorial director of the Sunday Guardian, is also with us live. Major General Anuj Mathur, defence expert, joins us live. Let me make a start with you first, Professor Nalapat. What do you make of this strike by Ukraine? What will be the implications of it on the talks in Istanbul, for which delegations have arrived as we speak?
Look, please don't talk about Ukraine. Let's talk about Zelensky, because he's the person in command there. Zelensky does not want peace with Russia, because the fact is, the minute that comes, well, he's out of a job. He would rather go ahead with this war, this purposeless war. And may I point out that in April 2022 itself, the Ukrainian leadership, namely Zelensky, had a choice of ending this war or not. Unfortunately, Boris Johnson and President Biden, sabotaged that and told him, don't worry, we will ensure that we see you through to the end. What neither mentioned was that it was the end of Ukraine that they were talking about, not the end of the war. The reality of the situation is that this is very bad for Ukraine. Ukrainians were ready for peace in 2022 April. They are ready for it now. They want peace. For all independent soundings, you have a lot of biased soundings which are being put out, including, I'm sorry to say, by sources of our northern neighbor, which also want to keep this pot boiling until it deals with, quote unquote, the Taiwan issue. So I want to say, let's not bracket Ukrainians and Ukraine with Zelensky. Zelensky wants the war to continue, and what better way than to plan a major strike? A very, very daring strike, admittedly. Now that he's got permission to hit deep into Russia, my only worry is that this is going to spill out of control and involve the European powers backing Ukraine in a war. And frankly, I don't believe the people of the European Union want that. And let's all remember the fact that where Russia is concerned, way back, in the last century, a man called Hitler, who was in Germany, he tried to finish off Russia. They almost lost Stalingrad, they almost lost Moscow, they almost lost Leningrad in the north, but they hung on. The Russians are tenacious fighters. They're not going to give up. And my worry is that this is going to finally escalate into a European war, which is probably why the Europeans are now nervously building up their militaries. I wish they'd spend that money on their own people and make peace with Russia, because all this is doing is pushing Russia deeper and deeper into a lap of China. And unfortunately, that is manifesting itself in expansionism by population. Chinese population settling all across the Sino-Russian border and in various other parts of Russia as well. And so the one beneficiary is China. Europeans are not the beneficiary, but they seem to be obsessed with this feeling that Russia will collapse. Well, the last time anybody had that obsession in the previous century, it is not Russia which collapsed today. Thank you.
Glenn Grant, let me draw you in here on what you believe prompted Ukraine to